Oftentimes when we're online, we see bits and pieces of people's lives, but the story that we create in our head sometimes is different from what actually happened in real life. And even though I know that, and you know that, sometimes it just helps to hear people say their actual story. What's going on, y'all? My name is Vannesia Darby and I'm a marketing consultant, and I own a company called Moxie Nashville, which is an online agency specializing in business strategy and social media. And I know that little intro is cute, but it took me a long time to figure out what to say and how to describe myself. So I want to break down for you my story and how I started my marketing agency and why I quit my job in order to do so. Oftentimes when we're online, we see bits and pieces of people's lives, but the story that we create in our head sometimes is different from what actually happened in real life. People may be getting funding, or they may have moved in with their parents to save money, or any of those things. And we think that if we don't do it exactly the way they do it, that somehow we're a failure. That couldn't be any further from the truth. And even though I know that, and you know that, sometimes it just helps to hear people say their actual story. It really started for me in college when I knew I wanted to be in the music industry. I actually had a friend in high school who passed away, and we made a pact before he passed that whoever makes it in the music industry first, the other one will put the other one on. So I had like an extra incentive to make it in the music industry. I ended up working at a radio company in Cincinnati, and then parlayed into going into work at a record label where I stayed there for 2 years. And I knew that I was going to leave. But for me, it really came down to a financial decision. I was in grad school at the time, and I knew that I couldn't come back to the job making the same amount that I was making with a master's degree. And so I took that as an opportunity and felt released from the Lord to go ahead and leave. At the time I had a roommate, and I didn't want my roommate to have to worry if I was going to make rent. So like I said, I was in grad school at the time. I had already taken out a loan for the next semester, and I took out a little bit of extra because I knew I was gonna quit my job. In case anything happened, I would be okay. But one of my friends actually recommended me to be a graduate assistant, and so I ended up being a graduate assistant, which they pay you a stipend to work at the school, and then you get your tuition taken care of. And then I also picked up a side gig at the gym when I first started because I wanted all of my bills to be okay. I didn't want to have to starve my business, especially as I'm trying to figure out what it is, to make sure that I could make rent. My grad assistantship and my YMCA gig, with those two combined, my monthly expenses were taken care of. So anything on top of that I made, because I didn't want to take any extra funding in the sense of like a business loan, or I didn't want to borrow any money, anything I made on top of that was just gravy. And I quit my job in April. I kicked it for like 2 months. I went and traveled, used up all my frequent flyer miles and all of that. By the time I started my business, I think I ended up getting my first client that second month. Now, one thing I want to recommend is that anytime you quit a company, send a kumbaya email out and let people know that you're leaving and going to, either you're going on your own, or that they can contact you personally in your email if your company allows you to do that. Because my first boss that was in the music industry was actually my very first client in entrepreneurship, and you never want to burn those bridges. So I ended up doing that, and that was fine. My roommate and I split up, and before I hopped into another lease by myself, I said, well, let me move in with my parents and pay down some bills, because I had some credit card debt from starting my business, from being in college and all of that. It wasn't anything crazy, but I had already had a plan. I was on my Dave Ramsey kick. I already had a plan to pay down that debt, and moving in with my parents just shortened that timeline. So by the time I moved out of my parents' home, I think I stayed there 9 months. By the time I moved out of my parents' home, I didn't have any credit card debt. I had enough money in my business because that was around the second year, so my clientele had picked up, my prices had increased, and I was able to go out on my own and to support myself, and have been ever since. And so just because you're turning a profit in your business, it may not be that you're actually sustaining your living expenses, it's okay to take your time in order to do that. Some people can come out the gate and, you know, double their income or triple their income or 5x their income. That ain't everybody's story, right? And it's okay to build brick by brick until you get to where you need to go. And so I do talk a little bit more about this in interviews, but I want to kind of give a short synopsis of how I actually started my company and how it worked for me. And so I want to encourage you that whatever your story is, whatever your entrepreneurship journey is, whatever your I quit my job story is, that you make it yours and that you make it something that you can be proud of and you can be honest and you can be integral in. And so I just want to share a little bit of my story so that you know there's more than one way to skin a cat, okay? I did another video called There's No Formula, All the Rules Are Fake. I think that's what it was called, from Instagram. And check that out. Like, everyone does everything on their own timing and in their own way. So don't ever feel pressured by the internet or by people that you even admire to think that there's one way to do something. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret too. Social media never tells the full story. I hope this video reminded you to get back to being you in your business and in your life. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope that you have a fabulous rest of your week. And remember to always speak life. Peace.